Alright guys, welcome aboard the F4U Corsair from Magnitude 3 for DCS World. Today we're going to take a look at the weapon systems. We don't have a lot to cover and they're relatively easy. Of course we've got 6 machine guns, 3 on each wing, here kind of the root of the wing. And on this particular aircraft we've got 2 500-pound bombs and we've got 4 unguided rockets there on the wings. We can have 8 rockets versus having the 2 bombs on board. We'll talk a little bit about how that works. But first, let's just talk about the guns and some of the switchology. Now, there's a lot of switches to do very little work. So we're going to start over here on the left eyebrow. This is our camera for the guns. Obviously, really not practical use in DCS. This is our master arm switch. This is activating which guns we want to use. So we want to shoot all 6. We're going to engage the outboard, center, and inboard guns. And this is how we turn on our gun sight here. We can change the polarity or the brightness there. On the right side, the right eyebrow, this is just telling us which bomb we want to drop. So we've got a left hand release, right hand release. It's kind of hard to see because it's scratched up. This is how we arm it. So we get the tail arming or the nose tail arming. And then pylon release just to release stuff. We're not going to deal with that. We're just going to deal with the actual engaging of targets with the weapon system. As for our rockets, we've got our rocket control panel over here, and it's hard to see, but we've got a covered switch right here. Let me turn on the flashlight again, not that it's that much help, but we've got this covered switch. Now right now, hopefully this changes, but right now you can't click on this unless you touch the tip. So we're going to touch the tip, and we're going to turn on the system. Arm safe. If we don't arm the rockets, they will not explode. They will shoot, but they will not explode, so we're going to put that to arm. Only other thing we really got to worry about here is this station. And I'll talk a little bit about stations here in a little bit, but first let's finish up with our guns. The last thing we need to worry about, and these two I don't really understand why they're so hard to get to, but this is essentially charging and unsafing the guns or safing the guns. So I don't want you to dwell too much on about what's going on because quite frankly I don't fully understand it. I'm just going to tell you what I do and what makes it work. So I'm going to click this once, it's going to go to charge, and then it pops up. Okay, so the guns are charged. Up here, I'm going to click it once, and it's going to take the guns off of safe. So now, I've got all my guns active. If I go master arm, and I pull the gunfire switch, you can see all my guns are shooting. Okay, so if I wanted to turn off some of those guns, now just my outboards are shooting, so on and so forth. Now we do have 2 other switches that we're going to need to worry about. We're going to have the weapons release switch. That's actually going to drop the bombs. And then there's a rocket fire switch. And that's how we're going to fire the rockets. We need to hold down, depress that rocket switch when we go to fire. Now one thing I realized I did not mention, we do have single and auto. So when we shoot single, it's going to shoot 2 rockets. It's going to shoot 1 off of either side of the wing. And if we go to auto, then it's going to shoot them for as long as we hold down that fire switch. Okay, so 3 switches we got to worry about: the trigger to shoot the gun, the rocket fire switch, and the weapons release switch for the bombs. Now, what I recommend is, particularly for these switches here, and really for all these switches, I would just set this up on the ground instead of trying to mess with it in the air, and then just leave your master arm switch off. Now you're configured, you're ready to go. We'll go ahead and arm these bombs. And now we're ready to go. All we have to do is hit the master arm switch. But what I want to talk about real quick is the rockets and the station firing, because this was a little confusing and it took me a little bit to understand. All right, so I've got my finger on the fire rocket switch. I'm going to pull it once. And again, I'm pulling it and holding it for a second. And notice how it went to station 2. Okay, so the next shot will go to the station 2 impulse. I have bombs on board. The impulse is not going to go to rockets because there's no rockets there. All right. Now, if I pull it again, it's going to station 3. So next station to engage is 3. I do have rockets on 3. 3 and 4, I've got rockets. Okay. Let me go in the mission editor and try to explain this a little bit differently. All right. So here we're on the mission editor, and as you can see, I can carry more rockets, or I can carry some rockets and some bombs. So let's go over here. When I said, when we turn on that rocket page or that rocket control panel, and it said next station is station 1. So the first one it's going to shoot is station 1. The outboard is station 1. Okay, as far as the aircraft is concerned, Station 2 is the next one, Station 3, Station 4. So in the current configuration, I've got bombs and rockets. Notice Station 1 and Station 2 are empty. But the aircraft's not smart enough to know that those stations are empty. It doesn't, it doesn't have that sort of technology. So you're basically sending an impulse to these stations those first times you fire. So when you carry a bomb and rocket configuration, just remember that the first 2 times that you pull the switch, pull the trigger to shoot rockets, nothing's going to happen. It's not going to get until it says Station 3. So that's something you could do on the ground and go ahead and just, advance yourself to Station 3, or it's just something to keep in mind when you're in the air. All right, let's get back to the aircraft and we'll go drop some bombs and shoot some stuff. All right, so we're ready to take off. Once again, I've got master arm switch off. I've got my guns armed. I've got my guns charged. I've got my bombs set to release both left and right. I've got the bombs armed. I've got my rocket control panel turned on. I've got the rockets armed, and I've got it set to single. And I've got Station 1 set to fire. So I'm going to go ahead and advance it. I'm going to go ahead and master arm. I'm going to pull that trigger. And now it's got me to Station 3. So the next time I pull the trigger, rockets should come off. Let me go ahead and turn on my sight. And let's get going. Alright, so we're in the air. I've got the gear retracted. We're clean. I've went ahead and closed the cowlings there. Allow us to get as fast as we can. I've got some targets just set up on the runway there. So what all I'm going to do is just come out. We'll just do a couple strafing runs with the guns. Drop some bombs. Shoot the rockets. Now this is in no way, shape, or form meant to show you how to aim necessarily with all these weapon systems. But it'll just kind of show them in use. So we'll go ahead and start turning back in on the targets. I'm going to go ahead and go master arm to armed. And first thing we'll do is just roll in with some guns. Now again, ammunition may be a consideration, so you can turn off which guns you want to shoot. In this case, we're shooting a truck, so we could definitely get away with only shooting a couple guns, but it's not really a big deal, so I'm just going to roll in here and see what I can do. Alright. And that's actually the first time I've strafed with the aircraft, so a little higher than I thought on the rounds. The rounds didn't drop as much as I anticipated. But, just using your pedals, using your stick, and sort of walking those rounds in. Alright, so we'll do one more pass, and then we'll roll in with our rockets. Now, obviously, we have bombs on board, so the aircraft's going to operate a little bit differently. We've got 1,000 pounds of extra ordnance underneath there. You might want to lead with bombs, depending on the target situation, but we're just out here having some fun. So let's get lined up on that middle guy there. Alright, nice. Alright, so let's go ahead and roll in with some rockets. Again, the rocket control panel is armed, or on. The rockets are armed. We're set to single, and we're on Station 3. So I've only got 2 impulses. I'm going to shoot 2 rockets with each impulse, unless I were to switch to auto, in which case it would shoot all of the rockets as I hold down that rocket fire switch. So rockets are a little funky. Just think of, bottle rockets, essentially. They've got some guidance in the sense of their little fins in the back and things like that. They're spin stabilized, but they're going to kind of go where they're going to go. So we're going to kind of get in close, try and get the aircraft in trim as much as we can, and sort of point with the stick. All right. So we got all our rockets off, and it looks like he escaped our justice, but he's probably got a code brown going on, so I'll call that a victory. Alright, last thing we've got now is, of course, our bombs. I'm just going to drop them both. There's really no point trying to hold on to them and savor them. We'll just get rid of both of them. So I'm going to get some altitude going. They're 500 pounders, so obviously you don't want to get too close to where they're landing and pick up any shrapnel. And there's really no good way, at least that I know of. I think there is some sort of bomb site setup. I haven't really explored that yet. Just kind of going through the basics here of how to make this stuff work. So I'm going to use basically the Mark 1 eyeball. I'm looking at the smoke. I don't have any wind set up, so I shouldn't have a lot of wind drift to worry about. The smoke would be going off in different directions if it were. And I'm just going to kind of dive in, let him get underneath my gun sight, and release. Oh, we still caught some shrapnel, but we did also destroy the target. So you can see I really didn't even get that low. I didn't notice how low I necessarily was. But I still picked up a little bit of shrapnel, but everything seems to feel okay. Probably just a little bit in the tail. But there you have it. Pretty much what you see is what you get. There's not a lot of frills with it. Rockets, of course, always going to take a little bit of extra practice with. The gun is, you know, pretty much just walk the rounds in on your target. And we'll just roll in on this last guy. Alrighty. Well, there you have it. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Hope you guys have fun with it. We'll talk to you on the next one. See ya.